As the 2024 Paris Olympics geared up for its grand opening, an unexpected hiccup left athletes in a bit of a scramble. That too, quite literally. The Olympic Village has been struck by a food shortage, leading to grumbling stomachs and grumpy athletes.
Olympic and Paralympic organisers say the summer heat shouldn't keep them awake in Paris, despite a lack of air conditioning in rooms as standard.
With multiple athletes falling sick, poor living conditions, forced vegan diets, terrible transportation issues, the sudden withdrawal of athletes and an alleged offence to South Korea, the 2024 Paris Olympics stands as one of the most contentious in sports history. Adding that with the multiple allegations of misconduct and prejudice, it is no surprise that some refer to it as the worst Olympic season in recent times. This event was 4 years in the making, with billions of dollars invested to make everything go smoothly.
These brands paid hundreds of millions of dollars to be associated with the Olympics, and all this money goes to the International Olympic Committee, or the IOC, which runs all the marketing programs for the Olympic Games.
Yet many things didn't go according to plan. Where did it all go wrong? What did those affected say about this? Join us as we explore what they confirmed about the Olympic Games. The Fraser Price controversy. On August 3, 2024, the Paris Olympic Games were well underway. Many track and field fans were looking forward to seeing world champion sprinter Sha'Carri Richardson compete against Olympic 100 champion Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce in the 100-meter competition. But before the semi-final, the Jamaican athlete Fraser-Pryce withdrew herself from the event.
But she wasn't there. She didn't run in the semis. It was really, really strange, Jess. There was kind of no news until late last night.
Many wondered why she suddenly backed out of her chance to win the race. She had won it twice before, and given her performance in the previous games, it was unlikely she would lose. But long after she pulled out, a video surfaced showing the young athlete being denied entry into a gate at the Olympic warm-up track. This clip went viral for many reasons. A few believed the video explained why she suddenly backed out of the semi-finals, the reason being that a last-minute rule had caused her to miss the necessary warm-ups before the race. But many believed the reasons were a lot more sinister than that. This was mainly because of Fraser-Pryce's complaints in the video. She implied that they were only letting in athletes who stayed in the Olympic Village, even though everyone was allowed the previous day. This sparked great controversy on the internet, with some pointing out that the officials only made things hard for Fraser-Pryce because she was Jamaican. Because of this, she couldn't make it to the semi-finals to compete against American champion Sha'Carri Richardson. While official comments were not made to address the allegations involving her nationality, the Jamaican Olympic Association reported that she left the competition because of an injury.
Injury is something that you don't want to happen to you, but it comes and you just, I guess, being experienced as I am, you take it for what it is, you go back to recovery.
According to Verify, the Olympic Games Organizing Committee confirmed that Fraser-Pryce was not the only athlete who almost entered the warm-up track through the wrong gate. Contrary to the narrative pushed on social media, the reports imply that Fraser-Pryce and the other athletes were redirected to the correct entrance shortly afterwards. Also, the athlete had been nursing a knee injury. This injury only got worse during the warm-ups, making her unable to participate in the sprint event. This was sad for many to hear, as she had earlier said this would be her 5th and final Olympics after winning gold medals in 2008 and 2012. She thanked her supporters the following day in an Instagram post without providing any specific information about the injury. Neither did she specify the main reason why she withdrew from the competition. Popular fact-checking news outlet Verify reached out to Fraser-Pryce for specific information on why she left the competition, but she did not comment. This lack of clarity on what happened sparked even more controversy, with many believing she couldn't have dropped out because of an injury. After all, she had been doing quite well with the injury from the start. They believe it was due to prejudice, based on how she looked and where she came from. Seeing how she stayed out of controversy by never being specific about what occurred, it is fair to say that something tricky must have happened behind the scenes. After taking a close look into the surrounding events, someone could say that something happened on August 3, but whatever it is.
I'm always of the expectation that it's going to be competitive, no matter where I'm at. Whether it's an Olympic Games, a World Championship or a track meet, it's going to be competitive.
It's something the Jamaican athlete chooses not to talk about. Looking further into this, from her statement in the viral video, France Press implied that she was not living in the Olympic Village, a special residence built for athletes participating in the Olympic Games. This might seem novel on the surface, but she was just one out of several who weren't living in the area. Multiple sources indicate that a handful of athletes either left or chose to stay away from the houses that were specially built for them. Why is that? Well, the answers are quite disturbing. Poor living conditions. Outstanding American tennis player Coco Gauff is one of a few notable athletes who spoke out on what it was like to live in the Olympic Village, and based on what she revealed, it was far from pleasant. She described that several members of the USA women's tennis team had to lodge in hotels because they couldn't stand living in the Olympic Village.
U.S. women's tennis player Coco Gauff ditched her room at the Olympic Village, and now she's staying at a hotel. She says 10 athletes were sharing 2 bathrooms.
Gauff further revealed in a viral TikTok video that 10 women were forced to share only 2 bathrooms. 5 of the women left to lodge in hotels, leaving 5 girls to manage the 2 bathrooms. She was one of the few able to tolerate living in the...
Too many losing tickets? Then don't.
Gauff further revealed in a viral TikTok video that 10 women were forced to share only 2 bathrooms. 5 of the women left to lodge in hotels, leaving 5 girls to manage the 2 bathrooms. She was one of the few able to tolerate living in the village, not because it was comfortable, but because she now had the whole room to herself, while the others had to share another room. One of the women from the Archer team lent Gauff a mattress topper to make her bed more comfortable. When confronted about this, Team USA's Olympic Village director Daniel Smith said that the athletes had a choice between staying at the official lodges provided by the officials or lodging in nearby hotels. Many of the high-profile stars chose the latter, including popular basketball stars LeBron James and Stephen Curry, at luxury hotels not far from the arenas. The officials in charge of building the facilities for the Olympic Village promised that the project would be as eco-friendly as possible. While the intention to care for the environment was commendable, many athletes didn't realize it would happen at the expense of their comfort and performance at the Games. One notable complaint from the residing athletes was about the beds they were given to sleep on. Unlike anything they were used to, these beds were made of cardboard. The athletes expressed concern about how firm they were, with some explaining how they woke up with pain because they weren't used to this way of life. These pains no doubt affected their performance in subsequent games, with the beds being much worse than the ones used during the Olympic Games in Tokyo, also made from recycled cardboard.
And check out the beds that will be in the Tokyo Olympic Village. Yeah, look. For the first time, rather than wood, they're made from recyclable cardboard.
The beds used in Tokyo had soft and firm sides to choose from, but for the most recent ones in Paris, both sides are hard to sleep on. Australian water polo player Tilly Kearns summarised her team's first night using the bed, with one of her teammates joking that her back was about to fall off. It was so uncomfortable that many of them had to order toppings for their beds to make it bearable, but a few athletes had foreseen this from experience and brought their beds from home. Among these lucky athletes was American gymnast Frederick Richard. When asked about this, Frederick said he wanted to perform at his best, no matter what. The athlete further said he couldn't perform adequately while enduring pains from sleeping all night on a hard bed. Swimming champion Sarah Sjostrom also brought her bed to the village, making it clear during an interview that she couldn't take chances at a time like this. Some athletes even went far enough to bring their air conditioners to the Olympic Village, but faced some restrictions due to European environmental practices.
I did hear some complaints about there not being air conditioning, and I think that's common. I mean, I know in the United States we're used to having air conditioning, so that's going to be a big adjustment for somebody coming here and there's not air conditioning.
But that wasn't the worst of it. It turns out that bad housing and bedding weren't the only issues at the Olympic Village. Feeding was also a major problem. Famous Australian swimmer Ariarne Titmus spoke about this, stating how she felt beyond exhausted after each game because of how much she relied on the vegan-friendly food that was offered to her. Former Olympic swimming champion James Magnussen sparked debate by challenging the diet offered to athletes competing in the Games. He pointed out that 60% of the food offered to athletes was meat and dairy-free, a diet which was unsuitable for athletes wanting to perform at their best. He said world-class athletes do not eat a vegan diet, a statement that wouldn't go down well with many people, but the statistics seem to prove his point. There were much fewer world records in the Paris Olympics than in the previous seasons. The former gold winner clarified that the reason there are fewer world-class achievements in the Paris Olympics is that those in charge decided to prioritize vegan and eco-friendly ideals over world-class performances. The leading officials allegedly had a charter that said 60% of the food in the village had to be vegan friendly.
Paris organisers wanted 60% of the food served at the Olympic Village to be vegan. This would reduce the carbon footprint of each dish to just 1 kilogram.
But they failed to realise that dairy products and meat are vital parts of most ideal diets for athletes. Because of this, they ran out of meat before the opening ceremony, meaning the athletes might have to live on a vegan diet for 2 weeks trying to perform at their best. James expressed surprise that the leading officials didn't realise that proteins are a vital part of the athlete's diet. After great pressure from athletes demanding a better diet, the Paris Olympic Village reportedly provided more than 700 kilograms of eggs and much more meat to replace the vegan-friendly diet they had earlier opted for. James Magnussen made other comments on the Matty and the Missile in Paris podcast, highlighting the other issues the athletes were facing, including the cardboard beds and lack of air conditioning despite increasing temperatures at the time. These attempts to reduce carbon emissions and fight animal cruelty seem to be doing more harm than good, but you'd be amazed if you thought bad housing and feeding were the worst of all that happened in Paris. Now, stay tuned, this is where things get ridiculous. More controversy. Thanks to the horrible living conditions of the Olympic Village, 6 Korean swimmers moved out to stay at a nearby hotel, as most other athletes did at the time. The hotel was a 5-minute walk away from the venue, as explained by KSF President Ching Chang-hoon. This report came after 2 of his swimmers had complained about the horrible transportation issues they had to deal with the previous day. Kong stated that he moved them away from the hotel to make sure they would be a bit more comfortable. After a Thursday training session ahead of the next event, Kim Woo-min, one of the swimmers, said that they had once used the athlete's shuttle bus to commute, but it was a terrible experience.
The International Olympic Committee apologized to South Korea on Saturday after its delegation of athletes were introduced as from rival North Korea.
The windows were taped shut, even though there was no air conditioning, and the bus he used earlier got into a minor accident after wasting a lot of time on the road due to a missed turn. The other swimmer, Hwang Sun-woo, likened the crammed bus to a sauna, explaining how it was cooler outside than in the bus. He also noted how it took more than 90 minutes to reach the arena when it should have taken about 40 minutes from the village. The inconveniences caused the players to ask for help, and that led to them leaving the Olympic Village to lodge at a hotel. Some defended the taped windows as a mechanism for preventing terrorist attacks, but Hwang implied the authorities could have done something much better to address the issue. A much bigger controversy sparked with the decision to use the Seine River to host marathon swimming events for the Olympic Games. The organisers assured the public that it would be safe to use, as they were investing over $1.5 billion to make the water safe enough for athletic activities.
The opening ceremony will go down the iconic river, and officials have poured billions of dollars into a specific effort to clean the river to allow athletes to swim in it.
Despite this assurance, the water quality remained a concern, specifically due to the history of the Seine River. From the early 20th century, the Seine was heavily polluted due to industrial waste and untreated sewage. Because of this, there were many swimming and fishing bans on the river, and the restrictions became official in 1923 due to the much higher levels of pollution. This ban remained for many decades, and by the 60s, the authorities began to make efforts to clean the water, but it was still considered unsafe for recreational activities. Even with the significant initiatives lasting till the 90s to improve the quality of the river, it was still unsafe for swimming. Despite the $1 billion investment put into making the river safe for swimming, the heavy rains before and during the games filled the waters with bacteria. Because of this, some of the events were postponed. The athletes who did compete in these games fell ill after competing in the Seine. Among these victims was German marathon swimmer Leonie Beck. She would later talk about how she vomited 9 times and suffered from diarrhea after the event, despite assurance from the authorities that the river was safe. This was a huge blunder, but it didn't come close to what was perhaps the most embarrassing moment in Olympic history. It was unbelievable. During the opening ceremony for the Paris Olympics, the South Korean delegation rowed their boat on the Seine River, waving to spectators. But to their offense, the French-speaking presenter introduced them by using the official name for North Korea. This was a chilling moment, perhaps the biggest blunder of the 2-week event, so embarrassing that the International Olympic Committee had to issue an official apology for this.
We can only apologise in an evening of so many moving parts that mistake was made, and we apologise to people from the Republic of Korea for that.
The apology was released in the IOC's official Korean account on X, formerly known as Twitter, but the mistake was bad enough to spark displeasing reactions from South Korea. This is mostly because South Korea stands as a nation of its own that is still at war with North Korea, and being mistaken for their enemies almost felt insulting. The Ministry for Sports in South Korea said in a statement that they expressed regret over the horrible announcement at the Paris Olympics. The second Vice Minister for Sports, Jang Mi-ran, was so displeased with this that he asked for a meeting with IOC chief Thomas Bach to discuss the matter. The country's foreign ministry had contacted the French embassy about this, and they responded with a private apology, calling it an incomprehensible mistake. The South Korean National Olympic Committee made plans to meet with the Paris Olympics Organizing Committee and the IOC to voice their protests face to face. What made it more annoying was that North Korea was correctly introduced with the country's official name. As of now, both nations are not at peace with each other, with the North allegedly joining forces with Russia while sending thousands of trash-carrying balloons to the South. Among all the scandals and controversies of the Paris Olympics, this blunder will no doubt go down in history as the most embarrassing moment in Olympic history. So, what do you think? Were there bigger scandals and controversies we didn't cover? Was the Jamaican controversy what the authorities said it was? Tell us in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, share and subscribe. Also, click the next video shown on your screen.